could this have been avoided?
Pwede naman po kung talagang na nakita natin yung problema, no? But as presented po by CAAP, no, hindi po nakita yung problema doon sa circuit breaker. No?
Hindi naman natin pwedeng sabihin na kasalanan ng circuit breaker kasi hindi namin alam kung hanggang kailan siya mag-fade. So, it's up for us, di ba? Yung tao po na nagme-maintain nun. Hindi lang pwedeng sorry eh. O kung may magre-resign man dyan, hindi rin enough yun. So, paano po ba natin in the future makocompensate yung mga pasahero po natin na hindi naman nila kasalanan yan?
From the nation's capital, all sides, all the time, I'm Robbie Alampay.
And I'm Gretchen Ho. The big story tonight.
The House of Representatives Transportation Committee held an inquiry into the technical failure that effectively took the entire country's airspace offline on New Year's Day. Let's have a quick rundown of what transpired that led to the inquiry. Chaos erupted on New Year's Day after air traffic control over the Ninoy Aquino International Airport shut down. This was blamed on faulty, uninterruptible power supply units. This left at least 65,000 passengers stranded and disrupted some 300 flights. Flight cancellations led to a domino effect, adversely impacting business and exposing vulnerabilities in the country's national security systems. Now, because of this, talks of privatization have once again resurfaced amid the shutdown. Senator Grace Poe called for the privatization of NAIA. She says it's high time for government to tap the private sector to modernize the Philippines' primary gateway.
Senator Sonny Angara, meanwhile, called for institutional reforms in the CAAP. Angara recommended the passage of Senate Bill 1003, which will mandate the inclusion of the Secretaries of Tourism and National Defense as additional members of the CAAP board. Today, the House began its inquiry on CAAP and the power outage. Now, in the inquiry, Transportation Secretary Jaime Bautista said that he will consider asking CAAP officials to take a leave of absence pending the results of the probe. Bautista made the response after Cagayan de Oro Representative Rufus Rodriguez suggested the action, stressing as well that there is a need for accountability for the fiasco.
Here to share with us other details regarding the House inquiry on the airspace shutdown, we have with us on the line House Transportation Committee Panel Chairman Antipolo Representative Romeo Acop. Congressman Acop, welcome to The Big Story.
Yeah, magandang gabi po sa inyo at maraming salamat sa oportunidad na ito.
Magandang gabi po sa inyo. May kalinawan po ba unang-una sa mga nangyari doon sa airspace natin nung New Year's Day?
Yun pong site ng CAAP ang sinabi po nila. Pero yung may mga specific details pa na hindi po nasasagot.
Ano po specifically ang mga tanong na bumabagabag pa rin sa atin at wala pa rin pong malinaw na kasagutan?
Ang sabi po nila kasi ay yung glitch nangyari po doon sa circuit breaker nila. And according to them, they have subjected for forensic examination yung circuit breaker na yon. Up to now, wala pa namang resulta kung ano ang conclusion nila dun sa circuit breaker na yon.
Sir, isa po sa mga tinitingnan po nila, yung maintenance nga po nitong circuit breaker na ito. Meron na po bang lumabas kung sino ang nagkulang dun po sa maintenance na yon?
Wala pa naman po. Simply because dun sa maintenance, we just have requested this day the submission of their budget, how it was programmed, whether they would look into it, whether they allocated funds for the maintenance of this critical equipment.
So mainly auditing po, sir?
Yeah.
All right.
There are reports that there were programs insofar as their budget is concerned, but these were never funded. So we want to find out from the documents that they're going to submit whether funds were allotted for the maintenance of this equipment.
Sir, yung scope po ng inquiry, hanggang saan po aabot to? Gaano kalawak ang mga tanong na gusto nating sagutan dito? For example, aabot po ba sa usapin ng privatization ng NAIA?
Questions were asked this day during the hearing whether ano po yung sense ni Secretary Bautista about privatizing the Ninoy Aquino International Airport. But according to him, they are on that, and they will conduct a feasibility study to find out whether it's better to privatize the Ninoy Aquino International Airport. But I said, while it is true that there's a need for a feasibility study, the terms of reference or the guarantees to be offered by government should be specific. Otherwise, no private business group would take the offer.
Hey, speaking of accountability, we heard a while ago the people are looking for who should be paying. Those who were affected by the airspace shutdown, meron po tayong mga pasahero. We have airlines also spending more than they should. Meron po ba tayong aasahan on that end? Will people get compensated for all the losses?
I don't think so, Madam Gretchen.
Okay, but
because the 2023 budget, I presume, doesn't have any program budget for such programs.
Okay. Nonetheless po, notwithstanding the current situation, as a result of this inquiry, among others, for in the interest of legislation, would it open up considerations as well for reviewing the rights of passengers moving forward?
Yeah, I think it was Congresswoman Bernadette Herrera who recommended that instead of the administrative orders, we would come up with a bill putting into law the rights of passengers.
Sige. Maraming salamat po. House Committee on Good Government and Public Accountability Chairperson Florida Robes. No, sorry. Now, did you see this live or on social media? This was the situation around 10 this morning at the corner of San Miguel Avenue in Shaw Boulevard. An SUV apparently lost control and hit pedestrians and cars along the road. We'll give you the details later.
Meanwhile, Meralco has announced an increase in power rates this month. Electricity charges will go up by 62 centavos per kilowatt hour, and residences consuming 200 kilowatt hours per month will see a 125 peso increase in their power bills. Meralco explained that the rate hike is due to the surge in generation charges, higher spot market prices, and the conclusion of refunds that were mandated by the Energy Regulatory Commission. The Energy Department, meanwhile, warned that electricity supply in the Luzon grid may be placed on yellow alert from March to November of this year. Meralco, however, assures they are looking for ways to address the supply deficiency beginning April.
In coordination naman with all stakeholders in the power sector, Meralco has been collaborating with the DOE for various measures to mitigate the effect ng potential effect of tight supply, especially for summer 2023. For supply side, as you may know, we are conducting 2 biddings for short-term PSAs. Hopefully, that will also help Meralco's customers be shielded from spot market price.
After the break, a couple more officials from the Defense Department have resigned, but the DND spokesperson says it's not unusual. We'll look into that and more when the big story returns. Keep it here on One News.
The Chinese economy ended 2022 in a slump. Retail sales fell into contraction for the second time of the year, and business activity and industrial output was also slowing rapidly. The government has said that they want to increase consumption this year and boost private spending and also support the housing market, which is also contracting. But so far, apart from these broad statements of their goals, they've not put out any actual plans for how they're going to do that. The abrupt pivot from the COVID-0 restrictions at the end of November and early December allowed the virus to spread rapidly around the country, and that has stopped people from spending, stopping them from going out. The recovery of the economy really depends on how quickly the virus can spread across the country. If the vast majority of China is able to pass the peak of infections quickly, then the recovery in consumption will be brought forward, and we may see it pick up as soon as the second quarter of 2023.
Our scanner helps our consumers in the store get the right decision. So they pick the right avocado, which is good for guacamole today, or maybe good for guacamole in a couple of days. So you're not disappointed when you get at home and open that avocado. So shelf life of produce changes constantly based on seasonality.
You're watching The Big Story here on One News. Before we proceed, I'd like to make an apology to Congressman Romeo Acop. Earlier, we had misspoken as he left the show and mentioned the name instead of Congresswoman Robes. We apologize, and once again, thank you to Congressman Acop for his time. Now, more defense officials have left their posts following the resignation of OIC Jose Faustino and the appointment of Carlito Galvez as the department's chief. Arian Colombiran with the details.
The Armed Forces of the Philippines supports the appointment of Carlito Galvez as the new Secretary of National Defense. AFP spokesperson Madel Aguilar says Galvez has proven himself capable of the job as he formerly served as Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces and is already a peace advocate. He also served as COVID-19 National Task Force Chief during the pandemic. Galvez's appointment follows the surprise resignation of Acting Defense Chief Jose Faustino.
It was a very smooth transition from the outgoing to the incoming Chief of Staff. And the Armed Forces of the Philippines, being a professional organization, will support whoever is designated by the President as Chief of Staff. Ito po ay parte ng ating tradisyon.
Faustino's resignation, meanwhile, came just 2 days after the reappointment of General Andres Centino as AFP Chief of Staff, replacing Lieutenant General Bartolome Bacaro. The palace has yet to provide an explanation on the decision, but Faustino has admitted to have resigned after being bypassed in the decision to reappoint Centino. Faustino said he only learned of the appointment from news and social media reports. Today, Defense Department spokesperson Arsenio Andulong revealed that some more officials of the DND vacated their posts, something which Andulong said was normal.
But that is a normal procedure here in government, not only in the DND. When a new leadership assumes office, all coterminous appointees are required to tender their courtesy resignations. That's in order to give a free hand to the incoming principal to determine the composition of his staff.
These surprise movements in the military leadership sparked rumors of destabilization among troops, which authorities have earlier denied. National Security Advisor Clarita Carlos tells One News the chiefs that she's also equally confused by recent military movements. Carlos shared that this could have stemmed from Republic Act 11709 or fixed long terms for key military officers.
Yes, my hypothesis is that this arose from do you remember that RA giving 3 years?
Yes, 11709, yes.
The Chief of Staff. I think that started there.
Section 2 of the law only allows a fixed 3-year term for the Chief of Staff of the AFP, but nothing more. Though overstaying is no longer a problem, the Chief of Staff position has become a revolving door position. The act still allows the sitting president to shorten the term of the Chief of Staff. Still, with changes in the military chain of command, Carlos is hopeful that there will come a time when meritocracy becomes the norm in government.
I wish there were more meritorious and a more rational way by which we put people in positions of authority and power, because it should not work this way na keso in-appoint ni ganito, tapos yung nag-appoint na alis, tapos yung naalis, dapat lahat ng in-appoint niya, alisin mo din.
Arian Kalumbiran, We Are One News.
The new polymer banknotes and HEAT apparently hate each other. This is what Jonathan found out the hard way as he shared to News 5 what happened when he accidentally ironed the new 1,000 peso banknote along with 2 old bills that were left inside a pocket of his cargo pants. Now, after ironing the pants, Jonathan found the 2 old bills without damage, but the polymer one was crumpled beyond use. The bank sadly refused to replace the damaged polymer bill, and the Bangko Sentral earlier warned Filipinos to always keep their polymer banknotes flat and clean and never to iron them.
Sad to say ngayon, nung binigay, nag-message sa akin, hindi na raw pwede. Pero I will try pa rin sa BSP. Kasi ang sabi lang sa akin, na-crumpled na eh. Tsaka yung serial number sa kabila parang di na mabasa.
Question now is, can Jonathan's banknote still be replaced by the BSP? Well, the BSP has yet to comment on that, but it has earlier listed down requirements for redemption of banknotes. The bill must be legal tender with at least 60% remaining surface area. It should show at least a portion of the signature or of the BSP governor, and the security thread must remain intact. In Jonathan's case, the signature of former President Duterte is no longer clear, and the serial number has almost been deleted. Still, Jonathan says he will still try to have the ruined bill replaced. The low-pressure area spotted inside the Philippine Area of Responsibility is expected to continue bringing heavy rains over some parts of the country. Pag-asa last spotted the LPA at 10 a.m., 425 kilometers east of Hinatuan, Surigao del Sur. The Weather Bureau says the LPA is not likely to develop into a tropical depression, at least until tomorrow morning. The LPA will bring moderate to heavy with at times intense rains over Sorsogon, Masbate, Eastern Visayas, Dinagat Islands, Surigao del Norte, Surigao del Sur, and Agusan del Norte. Meanwhile, light to moderate with at times heavy rains will be experienced over Agusan del Sur, Davao Region, Northern Mindanao, and the rest of Bicol Region and Visayas.
After the break, a U.S. Navy ship has officially been named after a Filipino Medal of Honor recipient. More details on that when the big story returns. Keep it here on One News.
Makers in trouble in China? Global automakers like Volkswagen, General Motors, and Tesla are highly reliant on China. They build dozens of factories to gain access to the country's consumers. The risks seemingly were outweighed by rapid growth in what has become the world's biggest car market. Germany's Volkswagen, Mercedes-Benz, and BMW now sell more vehicles in China than any other market. But as consumer appetite for electric cars takes off, the glory days for foreign automakers may be numbered. While Western automakers struggle to shift their lineups away from the combustion engine, Chinese rivals are moving into EVs at an electric pace. Domestic brands such as BYD, NIO, and XPeng have the backing of the Chinese government and understand what local buyers want. Their vehicles benefit from competitive pricing, snazzy designs, and smart features such as automated driving technology and in-car karaoke. Homegrown brands accounted for almost 80% of China's China's EV sales in the first 7 months of 2022. The shift is felt across the board. Volkswagen, still China's best-performing foreign brand, is selling battery cars at a rate that's far behind the pace of the broader EV uptake in the country. Tesla and Mercedes recently had to slash prices for their EVs in China because competition is intensifying, with the German car maker taking as much as $33,000 off the EQS, its flagship EV. International automakers had 61% of the total auto market in China just 2 years ago. That's declined to less than 50% in 2022. Foreign car makers still are generating healthy profits in China thanks to strong sales of their combustion models, and their brands carry quite the cachet. But there's another issue looming, the threat of worsening geopolitical tensions. Ever since the war in Ukraine triggered hurried company exits from Russia, there's mounting concern over what would happen to business in China if the country were...
You're still watching The Big Story here on One News. Aside from officers and enlisted men, the Philippines will now have a United States Navy ship named after a Filipino. And this will be no ordinary ship, as the U.S. Navy announced that one of its Arleigh Burke-class destroyers will be named USS Telesforo Trinidad. This is in honor of Fireman Second Class Telesforo de la Cruz Trinidad, the only Filipino in the U.S. Navy to be awarded a Medal of Honor. In his Medal of Honor citation, it is said that Trinidad rescued 2 of his shipmates aboard the USS San Diego back in 1915 after the ship's boiler exploded. The incident burned Trinidad's face and earned him recognition for his brave act.
And here to talk to us more about the legacy of Telesforo Trinidad and what this means for the Philippine-U.S. relations is former U.S. Consul General to the Philippines, Mr. Sonny Busa. Sir, welcome to the big story.
I'm glad to be there. Thank you for having me.
Take us back to the legacy and to the story of Telesforo Trinidad. What exactly was special about this story? What makes him deserving to have a ship named after him?
Well, the U.S. Congressional Medal of Honor is the highest award for valor in the United States. There is no higher medal. It's equivalent to the Philippines Medal of Valor. And so it's high time that the U.S. Navy recognize this, especially for a Filipino sailor. There have been many Medal of Honor winners, but there's only been one Filipino-American sailor who was awarded it. And so it's entirely appropriate that now the U.S. Navy will finally recognize this valor and name its most modern warship to date after Telesforo Trinidad. This is a very high honor.
Mm-hmm. Now, tell us more about Filipinos serving in the U.S. Navy. Are there a lot of Filipinos right now there? And why do you think that they chose a Filipino to name this ship after?
Well, there have been hundreds of thousands of Filipinos who have served in the U.S. Navy since 1902. And they've served honorably, loyally, and with great heroism. There have been many ships named after many heroes in the U.S. Navy. But for the first time, we're finally going to have a Filipino honored with this warship. The Arleigh Burke destroyer is the most modern destroyer in the U.S. Navy. The only more lethal warship the U.S. Navy has is its aircraft carriers. So having a Arleigh Burke modern missile destroyer named after a Filipino is a really big deal.
Tell us more about the capabilities of the USS Telesforo Trinidad.
Well, the USS Telesforo Trinidad shoots about 90 missiles, has a lot of guns. I don't want to get really technical, but it has aircraft, it has helicopters, it has torpedoes, it has depth charges. It's quite the modern weapons platform. Now, the USS Telesfort Trinidad will not be built until 2028. It's being built now. It takes about 4 to 5 years to build these ships. They're very complicated machines. And so today, this afternoon in Washington, D.C., the Secretary of the Navy is going to have the formal naming ceremony. And invited to the ceremony are high-ranking Filipino-American officers from all branches and high-ranking Filipinos in the civilian sector.
Okay, Mr. Sonny, given all the tensions in the West Philippine Sea right now, do you think that might also be a reason? And what signal does this send for Philippine-U.S. relations?
Well, this is very important for U.S.-Philippine relations because it recognizes the special relationship between the U.S. and the Philippines. Part of that special relationship are the many thousands of Filipinos who have served in the U.S. Armed Forces. Now, as far as the tensions in the South Philippine Sea, I can't think of a more symbolic gesture than to see the USS Telesfort Trinidad sail into those waters and as a show of force. It will be quite symbolic.
Okay, Mr. Sonny Busa, maraming salamat po. Mr. Busa is former U.S. Consul General to the Philippines. And thousands of nurses in New York City went on strike, affecting operations in at least 2 hospitals. Around 7,000 nurses from the Montefiore Hospital in the Bronx and Mount Sinai Hospital in Manhattan took to the streets to condemn poor working conditions they'd been enduring over the past years. The protest erupted after contract negotiations were put on hold, with labor unions and hospital management unable to agree on pay raises and additional staffing.
Nurses don't want to strike. We would rather be inside, taking care of our patients, but safely, in a safe manner, not the condition they have us working for the past 5-10 years. Enough is enough, Sinai. Enough is enough.
The nurses also say that a majority of them are in need of breaks after working for more than 2 years under the COVID-19 pandemic.
May panahon na isang nurse, 18 na pasyente. Sa emergency, 18. So, pag naka-break pa yung ibang nurse, syempre, we all need our break.
Meanwhile, the Philippine Consulate in New York is backing the New York nurses' call for better wages and working conditions. Nearly 1,000 of the affected nurses are Filipinos. The consulate hopes the resolution to the dispute will be mutually acceptable to all parties involved. Now, more details on that multiple vehicle collision along Shaw Boulevard. At least 13 motorists have been reported injured due to the incident. 2 of them are in critical condition. This CCTV footage shows an SUV ramming a vehicle and a motorcycle at the corner of Shaw Boulevard and San Miguel Avenue this morning. After this, the SUV backed off and then rammed other vehicles parked on the side of the road. Those injured were immediately given first aid, most of them riders and passengers of motorcycles. At least 8 vehicles and 4 motorcycles were affected by the incident. The SUV's driver says he lost control of the vehicle. He is now facing charges for reckless imprudence resulting in multiple physical injury and multiple damage to property.
UP standout Carl Tamayo will be hanging up his maroon jersey as he goes pro in the Japan B-League. Here's my report.
Carl inside, Tamayo for the lead! And
UP Fighting Maroons big man Carl Tamayo is packing his bags to play professionally in the Japan B-League. He is the latest Filipino player to pursue a career abroad. In an Instagram post, the 6'6" power forward thanked his fans and the UP community for the support throughout his basketball career. He says playing for UP was his biggest blessing. It's also the very same support system that pushed him to take the offer. Tamayo said that after careful consultation with UP management and coach Goldwyn Monteverde, it was agreed that taking his talents to Japan would be the best step for his growth. There's no word yet, though, on which team the Talisay Cebu native will play for.
Tamayo wants to go one-on-one. Tamayo goes to his left, drives, goes hard.
Tamayo had been instrumental in breaking the 36-year title drought for UP in season 84. He also crafted an impressive resume in the process after being hailed Rookie of the Year and being included in the mythical 5 roster. With all the blessings and opportunities coming his way, Tamayo says that he will look back on his journey with gratitude as he pursues his professional career.
Carl Manansala on him. Tamayo!
He says that no matter if he's miles away, his heart will always bleed maroon. Gretchen Hall, We Are One News.
Turnover by
And that's the big story tonight. For more updates, follow News 5, The Philippine Star, and Business World Online. You may also log on to onenews.ph for more analysis. Ako po si Robbie Alampay.
The big story is also available via Signal Play app. Make a free account now at signalplay.com and stream One News anytime, anywhere. Ako po si Gretchen Ho. Stay safe, Philippines.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.